On today's podcast, we sit down with Larry Mestel, founder and CEO of Primary Wave, the company that's changing the game in music rights, publishing, and legacy artist branding. Larry shares how Primary Wave has redefined what it means to be a music publisher, going far beyond administration to revitalize iconic catalogs from legends like Whitney Houston, Prince, and Bob Marley. We get an inside look at his secret sauce for balancing artistic legacy with modernization, the untold stories behind massive brand deals, and why collaboration, not just acquisition, is at the core of their approach. If you ever wondered how sleeping giant catalogs turn into global brands, or what it takes to re-energize a legend for new generations, this is the episode you can't afford to miss. Insiders, are you ready? Welcome to MUBUTV's Music Business Insider Podcast, where our mission is to educate, empower, and engage artists and music business professionals who are dedicated to having a successful career in the new music industry. Here are your hosts, Rich Ezra and Eric Knight.
Welcome back, Insiders, to another episode of the MUBUTV Music Business Insider Podcast, where our mission is to educate, empower, and engage your music career. On today's episode, we sit down with one of the most influential figures in the modern music business, Larry Mestel, founder and CEO of Primary Wave. In this raw and revealing interview, Larry pulls back the curtain on what makes Primary Wave such a distinct force in music. From their groundbreaking approach to music publishing, artist management, and catalog acquisition, to how they're breathing new life into legendary artists like Whitney Houston, Prince, Bob Marley, and even Bing Crosby. We'll explore how Primary Wave goes way beyond administration to actively marketing and revitalizing iconic catalogs for new generations, striking that all-important balance between preserving legacy and pushing creative boundaries. You'll hear Larry discuss the secret sauce behind their success, why choosing partnership over simple acquisition is key, and the incredible stories behind hits like the Whitney Houston and Kygo Higher Love remix and the cross-generational Bing Crosby listening boom. Plus, we dive deep into the future of music branding, Broadway shows, immersive live experiences, and how the global music market is opening up unprecedented opportunities. If you've ever wondered what it takes to build value in artist legacies, launch true iconic collaborations, or are looking to learn from one of the sharpest minds in the industry, you don't want to miss this episode. So stay tuned, Insiders. But first, a word from our sponsor. Hey, Insiders! Are you an aspiring musician, artist, band, or future music business professional looking to take your career to the next level? Well, look no further. At MUBUTV, we offer personalized career counseling and coaching designed specifically for folks like you.
Imagine having both of us by your side, guiding you through every step of your music journey. Our sessions are tailored to meet your unique needs, focusing on critical aspects of your music career, such as refining your songs, defining your artist story, identifying your target audience, and enhancing your social media presence, just to name a few.
Whether you're just starting out or looking to elevate your existing career, we've got you covered. Our comprehensive approach ensures you get insights on everything from live shows to branding and marketing strategies. We understand that every artist is unique. That's why our coaching is personalized just for you.
And here's the best part. We offer flexible coaching packages that fit any budget. Choose from individual sessions ranging from 30 to 90 minutes, or save with our discounted 4-session packages. Experience custom sessions designed to enhance your music career, with opportunities for greater savings when you choose bundled sessions. Investing in your musical journey has never been more accessible.
Imagine the clarity and direction you'll gain after just one session. The feedback on your songs, the strategies to grow your audience, and the confidence to perform live, all tailored just for you.
So why wait? Don't let uncertainty hold you back. Join us for your free 15-minute discovery call at book.mubutv.com for a transformative coaching experience that will elevate your music career. That's book.mubutv.com.
Hi, this is Karan Banagar, Head of Artist and Creator Strategy at Hook, and you're listening to the MUBUTV Music Business Insider Podcast.
Welcome back, Insiders. Today's featured guest is one of the most influential figures in the modern music business, Larry Mestel, founder and CEO of Primary Wave. As you know, Eric, we have been wanting to have this conversation for a very, very long time. Larry is one of the most bright, most insightful, and most unique thinking people in the music business. His concepts, his consciousness around brands, around music, around its role in the culture. And, we never were able to get him. And when I found out that Larry was coming to
a Muse Expo,
he's not often in California.
Right.
So when he was, I immediately reached out and said, can we do this? We'd love to have him. And we were able to do this. It wasn't something, his schedule is so tight. We were never able to carve out the time, when he was in New York. So I was really, really happy with it. One of the things, and you'll hear many insiders, but one of the things that I thought was the most important, because, a lot of these kinds of deals and purchasing of catalogs and stuff, a lot of them are done. But one of the most important elements that he spoke of from a business standpoint, which I thought was absolutely crucial, was he talked about infrastructure mattering. And what that means is that it's one thing to buy these catalogs for the economic value that they may or may not have. But the true economic value, he said, comes from having an infrastructure where you can put into place a lot of these kinds of plans and ideas and visions. And you have to have that. It's one thing to talk about something. It's quite another to say, okay, and here's what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, and have the team to actually be able to execute that.
Yeah. And one of the other areas that I loved about this conversation, which obviously, Rich, there was many of them, but was the whole idea of name, image, and likeness rights. This is something that's become very prevalent. You're noticing probably if you follow sports like I do, a lot of the college athletes now have the rights, which they didn't have before, that name, image, and likeness, where they can go and solicit to companies and whatnot and kind of, use their name, image, and likeness to sell their brand. And that was something that wasn't used back then. So this is something that's become, it's been part of the art industry for a long time. What I loved was that these rights are crucial for maximizing both creative and commercial possibilities in today's music industry. And somebody like Larry and his company with Primary Wave definitely needs that in order to function.
Absolutely. In other words, it's thinking 360.
Correct.
It's thinking on a full conceptual level.
And with that, insiders, sit back, relax, and enjoy our featured conversation from Muse Expo 2025 with Larry Mestel.
Larry, welcome to the show.
Nice to be here.
Very nice to have you. We're very, very excited about this conversation. Now, Primary Wave, in my view, is truly a 21st century company. You have several divisions. You have artist management. You have music publishing. You have film and television production. You have brand and digital marketing, which I want to get into. But I heard you on a show once say that you were in the icon, legend, and hit song business. Now, Primary Wave, in my view, has redefined what it means to be a music publisher, going way beyond just administration to actively market and revitalize legendary catalogs in your company, such as Whitney Houston, Prince, Bob Marley, just to name a few. My question is, how do you strike a balance between preserving the integrity of these legacies while modernizing them for new audiences, which is something you have really been effective at doing?
Yeah, listen, that's a great question, but it's not really a balance, right? It's first and foremost protecting legacy, because we're partnering with these artists. We own a partnership interest, so it's about protecting legacy long-term and building value. And the way you do that without a balance is that you get the artists to agree 100% of the time the creative that we roll out. We don't do it without the artist's consent or the heir's consent.
All right, so you actively involve them.
Absolutely.
Larry, thank you for joining us. It's a real honor to have you on the show. I wanted to ask you, you've mentioned that legendary catalogs tend to over-index in valuation and create their own financial gravity. Given this, how do you evaluate a catalog's potential before making an investment? And what are the key factors that you look at to get an idea of what the value beyond just the music itself?
Sure. Well, first of all, for us to be interested in a deal, the artist has to be legendary, or the songs have to be iconic, or the financial proposition has to be so good that it doesn't have to be any one of the first two, and that's rare. So from our perspective, in order to make a deal, we have to believe that the music and the brand of the artist themselves are under-commercialized, under-marketed, undervalued, in essence. And so if it fits that criteria of being under-commercialized, under-marketed, iconic songs, legendary artists, that's our sweet spot.
The Whitney Houston estate deal, which included not just her music royalties, but also her name, image and likeness. Why is it crucial to think beyond music rights in today's marketplace? And this goes to the heart of what you do.
Yeah, sure. So you're asking about my secret sauce, right? I'm going to tell everybody what the secret sauce is. I'm happy to do it.
More your philosophy of, those broader rights.
Sure, sure. Look, here's the thing. And Whitney is an extreme case, right? Because Whitney wasn't a writer, right? So you're not controlling the publishing.
Correct.
On the songs. So Whitney, although in case of Whitney, we do because we own, I Want to Dance with Somebody, How Will I Know, and a bunch of other Whitney songs because we did subsequent deals.
With the writers.
Strategically with the writers. But in the case of Whitney Houston, the best way to market songs, okay, and this is where I think a lot of people may not get it correctly, the way you market songs is to market the brand of the artist. Right? It's very hard to market a songwriter. It's very hard to market a song. But if you're coupling that marketing with marketing the brand of the artist, it makes it a lot easier to create value and to create opportunity for the artist. Not everybody understands how to do that, though. So you don't just say, oh, I'm going to market the brand. No, you have to have an infrastructure to do that. We have, 70 plus people on the creative marketing side, marketing, branding, digital content, all the things that you had mentioned.
Yeah.
You have to have that platform to do it. You can't just say, hey, I'm going to go and buy these great songs or these great catalogs, and I'm going to exploit and I'm going to market, because that's not how it works. You have to have a plan. You have to have experience. You have to have the people to do it. And then you have to have the trust of the artist or the heirs to actually be able to implement it. And that's very important. So, name, image, likeness rights for us are an important part of any deal that we do.
Interesting. Okay. And, and the Whitney one I did pick specifically because it's so unique in your catalog, given that there is no writer or songwrites in it, which is why I selected that one. Yeah.
The proof is in the pudding. We couldn't have a better relationship with the Houston family. They are tremendous partners. Pat Houston is brilliant. She is a great partner. And look, when they brought us in and said, hey, we want to do a deal with you, we want to partner, we said, well, great, makes sense because we only want to partner. The entire estate of Whitney Houston, shockingly, was only generating about 5 years ago, when we did our partnership, about $1.5 million a year.
Wow.
Now that's shockingly low, right? And so, 2024, we're over 7 million a year. And it's all low-hanging fruit, right? So, it's the brand deals we do. It's the MAC Cosmetic line. It's the Scent Beauty line. It's, all these things that we've done. And then, we were able to co-produce a movie which generated significant interest. It took the baseline, streams up almost 100%. And then, if you back up even further, what really got it all started was one of the members of our team, Justin Shukat, who is, our head creative. He and Adam Lohnberg and I, our head of marketing, were sitting in a room with Pat Houston and the family, and we said, look, play us some of The Vault. What's in The Vault? What's unreleased? And Pat played us a 1990 version of Whitney Houston, unreleased, right, singing, the old Steve Winwood hit.
Higher Love.
Higher Love.
Which never, ever came out.
And we got, one of the members of our marketing team got Kygo to remix it. I think it was like 2 days. He was such a fan, he remixed it quickly. We brought it over to RCA and we said, listen, this is a hit record. Get it on the radio. And they said, you know what? This is a hit record. Normally we'd put it up, on DSPs and see how it works. This is such a hit, we're going to radio. And so, that really re-stimulated interest in a new youth culture about Whitney and, her being a voice of a generation. Today, it's her second biggest streaming song of all time, over 1 billion streams. And that was Primary Wave going into the vault, digging in and saying, look, this is a hit record. Let's go remix it. Let's put it out. Let's work with our, friends at RCA and make it a hit. And, it was a hit. I think it was 8 different countries around the world. And, that led to us rebranding Whitney. You don't just go out and do brand deals. You have to polish up an image and you have to rebrand. And, you start with music. You got a musician, right? You got a singer. Let's start with music. And so we did. And today, Whitney is in a completely different space.
And you're
very,
just
very
scratching the
positive
surface.
space.
And you're just scratching the surface.
We're just scratching. We have so much going on. We're about to announce a really great Broadway producer coming on. We're going to be doing the Whitney Houston Broadway show. I mean, there's just so much we have going on. The thing that really gets me excited is when things are organic, right? When you do brands and brand alliances that are organic. Our brand team, who is run by a guy named Jeff Strawn, who is just fantastic. He's tremendous. He brought in a deal with a company that is in the gaming business. We thought we were going to ship in 2024 200 slot machines. Now, the reason I'm so excited is when Whitney would perform at a casino, she'd go and play slot machines. She really enjoyed doing it. So, Jeff did this brand deal with a slot machine with a gaming company. We shipped over 500 units of the slot machine in 2024. We were projecting to ship 200, and I think we're going to ship another 500 over the next 12 months. We're going to be, we and the estate, and it, again, this is, it all goes back to the partnership. The partnership of Primary Wave and the estate will be making more money on an annual basis on just the slot machines than the entire estate was earning 5 years ago.
Wow.
And again, that's what you can do when you focus, when you have a team, when you have a plan, and when you have great partners in the artists or the people that are overseeing the artist legacy, like really great estates.
Yes, and it's not always the case.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, we've talked about it several times on the show. I would assume you guys are involved with the tour and the hologram and all that stuff that's being developed.
The hologram tour that happened 3 years ago was a deal that was done before we started with the estate.
Okay.
Right, and so, unfortunately, it got derailed by COVID. It was starting off, very well in the UK. It was the first stop on a worldwide tour, and it got derailed by COVID. But the technology now is so much greater than what it was even 5 years ago. We have much bigger things that we're going to be rolling out that's much more immersive, experiential, that will showcase Whitney in a absolutely tremendous way. So you'll be hearing about that down the road.
That's very exciting. Yeah, I'm excited to hear about some of these new technologies and things like that you're talking about. I mean, I've heard from people who have said they're doing a show like that for Amy Winehouse. So that should be very interesting as well. But yeah, so I'm glad to hear that you're going to be incorporating that.
Very competitive. So, So, Amy Winehouse is not one of our artists. So,
okay.
I hope they're successful, but I'm working on Bob Marley and Prince and everything else in our portfolio. So they're our competition.
Okay. All right.
Larry, you've said that buying rights wholesale is a mistake, and that Primary Wave prefers to buy a percentage of a catalog to work collaboratively with the artist or estate. What's behind this philosophy?
Well, it goes to what I had said before, which is we are only going to buy the best of the best. We're going to buy iconic, we're going to buy legendary. And when you buy a portfolio, not a Primary Wave, but if you buy a portfolio of almost everything out there, maybe you get one act or two acts that would fit our criteria for wanting to buy, but then you get 20 other acts, artists that are, that are not what I would call AAA, premium artists and brands. So you buy two and you're stuck with 30. That's not a way to generate value and generate returns and make artists in general happy. So we do it the old-fashioned way. We do it one by one, almost always, because when we're buying, we're making a commitment to the artist and the management team of that artist, right, or the heirs, to be a great partner, to deliver, to generate opportunities. If I buy a portfolio, then how do I keep the 28 artists that we're buying that aren't in our pocket, how do I keep them happy? They'll be unhappy. And then we'll be just like every other music company out there, where just as soon as an artist does a deal, they want off the label or off the publisher, right? Our artists have never received the type of attention before that we give them at any other company. And that's why our artists are our best references. You've got to deliver. And so it's hard to do that if you buy a whole portfolio.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
by the way, it's easy for companies that have a buy and hold strategy.
Right.
Meaning a buy and hold as in they hope that you or somebody else does something. You know, I'm not saying that's a bad vision or a bad strategy. It's not our strategy.
Right. But let me ask you then, based on what you just said, are you also against buying a artist that you are genuinely interested in that fits your criteria 100%?
Well, we have. I'll give you an example.
Oh, okay.
But I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
It's our preference to partner.
Right.
We own 50% of the Prince estate,
right.
50% of Bob Marley's publishing, 50% of Whitney Houston's. But look, in the case of Olivia Newton-John, where, we went to see Olivia and Olivia said, look, I unfortunately have this terminal illness.
Right.
And I don't want my family to be burdened by having to manage music assets. It's either going to be 100% or I'm not going to do a deal with you.
Got it.
And we absolutely loved Olivia, loved her music, loved her brand, loved what she stood for. And so we said, you know what? We will, but we still involve her lawyer, her manager, her husband in all of the deals that we do and all the creative. So, it really, to be successful in this business long term, you have to involve the artist.
Hey, insiders, we hope that you've been enjoying our featured conversation. Stay tuned because we've got so much value coming your way. But before we dive back in, a word from our sponsor.
Hey, Eric, as an artist, what do you find are the most challenging aspects to a music career, especially when you're starting out?
Well, I think one of the first things is just trying to get the direction of who you are as an artist, where you want to go, where you want to be. And, we've talked about it on the show a lot. Who is your target audience? Who you are? What do you stand for? What do you believe in? What do you think would resonate with an audience? And so those are some of the things that I would feel being a new artist. Obviously, what I know now is different because I know these things, but for people that are out there like our audience that don't have necessarily any direction to go would be the first things that I would start off with.
And having the songs that
Absolutely.
Incorporate those elements that you're speaking of into it. That's so important today.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why we started MUBUTV and why we started this new consulting service that we're offering to all of our insiders out there, because that is another one of the big things. I mean, that is the big thing, is like having the great songs. That's what it really starts off. Our friend Don Grierson always said, it always starts with a great song. So that's probably, besides putting together what your audience and what your target audience is the single most important thing. Where are your songs at currently today? Are you collaborating with people? Are you trying to go out to networking events where you can connect with other songwriters and stuff like that? So
yeah, and what are your strengths?
Exactly.
Are you a strong lyric writer? Are you a strong melody writer? Are you a strong musician, a player?
Right.
And it's really important to get really strong clarity on those issues before proceeding.
I totally agree, Rich. And, with our consulting services, we offer a myriad of different packages and we've made it super affordable for everybody. So, if you guys are interested out there in connecting with us on a coaching call, you can visit book.mubutv.com and start off with a free 15-minute discovery call.
Well, yeah, absolutely. There we start with an initial 15-minute call where we can get a sense of who you are, what are the issues that you specifically have, right, and want to work on.
Exactly.
And we can go from there. Absolutely.
Yeah, and we tailor everything to your needs. It's not like a cookie cutter thing. We kind of really want to get to know who you are as an artist, where you at today, what's the snapshot of you as an artist today, and then start trying to craft something that's tailor-made for you. So again, if you're interested, visit us at book.mubutv.com for your 15-minute discovery call.
Hi, this is Jeremy Yohai, Senior Vice President of A&R at Concord Music Publishing. Are you an insider? I am. Subscribe now.
You have stated in the past that Primary Wave is focused on catalogs that have been undervalued or left to the wayside, I think was the quote that I remember reading. What makes them so appealing when they've been neglected over the years? And is this your A&R philosophy that makes them work?
Right.
In that, or
well, look, that's buried treasure to us,
okay,
right?
all right, that's what, that's
It's
what
like
I wanted to know.
the silverware in your grandmother's, kitchen that just needs to be polished and look new again, right? So you take a Bing Crosby or a Count Basie or a Glenn Gould or, someone you may say, oh, why does anybody want to be in business with Bing Crosby? You would have been 120 years old this year, right? Well, the reason we want to be in business with Bing Crosby is because he had tremendous music, right? Just take a look at White Christmas. He had, catalog of hundreds and hundreds of songs. You go in and you polish it up a little bit. So, the family lets us do a deal with Adidas. We did a deal with, the AT&T Clambake Classic Golf. We connected this past Christmas. Think about this. We connected 120-year-old Bing Crosby with V from BTS. V, we found out, was a major Bing Crosby fan, right? Who would have thought one of the biggest K-pop bands in the world, one of the members would have been a Bing Crosby fan? He grew up singing to Bing Crosby with his family, right? So we connected the dots. We took Bing's voice and V's voice and came out with a new version of White Christmas. And I think it streamed, we got it out late in the year, unfortunately, but I think it streamed over 60 million times, and it'll be a perennial,
every Christmas.
Perennial Christmas
song.
record.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
What does that do? It takes Bing Crosby's earnings up tremendously. I think the month of Christmas, the month of December and January, Bing Crosby popped from 3.5 million monthly listeners to over 30 million. Monthly listeners.
Wow.
Right? So, that's the effect you can have on an artist that has maybe been a little bit forgotten.
That's got to be exciting for you
Those are the
guys.
ones that really excite us.
Yeah, very much so.
Larry, marketing and brand building are crucial elements of maximizing catalog value. Can you elaborate on how Primary Wave goes beyond traditional methods to create new revenue streams? And what's been one of your most successful brand collaborations?
Yeah. Well, we talked about, the Whitney Houston slot machines. We talked about, the MAC cosmetic lines. We created this incredible beer for the band Styx. Think about it. Their biggest song is Renegade.
Right.
Right. So when we met with, Tommy Shaw, Tommy was, hey, we want a beverage. Okay. So we set out to create a beverage, and we came up with, why don't we call the beer Renegade? We'll do a beer, call it Renegade. Well, we found out this microbrewery in Maine had a beer called Renegade. They wouldn't sell us the mark, right? They wouldn't sell us the name. So we said, all right, you know what? Let's go back to the drawing board. We're going to call it Oh Mama, right? Start of Renegade. We also realized that in Pennsylvania, the Pittsburgh Steelers theme song is Renegade, right? So what better place to start selling beer than in Pennsylvania? And, my brand team tells me that 5 years from now, we're going to be looking back. I think we shipped 26,000 cases of the beer last year.
Wow.
They tell me we're going to make more money, and the band is going to make more money on beer than music. So we'll see whether that's the case.
Yeah.
But we have so many brand deals and opportunities we've done. We created with Mattel a Stevie Nicks Barbie doll. We have more opportunities like that with Mattel coming. We created an Airbnb campaign for Prince, just on and on. Our brand team really is killing it.
Have you ever come, you don't have to name names, but have you ever come across situations where your ideas or your team's ideas are just met with resistance from the estates?
Well, we get to know these artists very well. We get to know the heirs very well because they are our partners. Mm-hmm. And so we involve them early in the process. And look, we'll come up with ideas that we'll run by an artist, and they'll say, you know what? It's very creative, but I don't think I want to do that. And so we'll say, you know what? Next, right?
Okay.
So we don't ever get dissuaded, right? We are
just
constantly
veer.
coming up
Yeah.
with ideas, but more importantly, we're creating a roadmap even before we finish a deal of what the artist wants us to focus on. So, typically we're not getting turned down because we have an idea of the direction that these artists want to go in. Look, part of what we've really been focusing on the last few years, in addition to the branding, in addition to the digital, in addition to the marketing, is we're creating our own Broadway shows. Natalia Nestaskin, our head of content, she must have 15 Broadway shows
Wow.
in development. We probably have, 20 plus movies, biographical films, documentaries, and then we have a deal with Kathy Schulman, who's one of our partners. She's really a superstar producer, won an Oscar for Crash. She's doing a Boy George movie for us. She's doing, probably another 8 or 9 movies, music-based movies on our catalog. So we've got a lot in development. And then, you talk about the content creation side, like immersive experiences, avatars,
Right.
Shows. We are launching our Bob Marley Hope Road show, which I am really excited about, it with Mandalay Bay, with MGM and a company called Five Currents, who have done, I think, the last 15 Olympic Games. Very big production. It's a type of show that Vegas has never seen before. We're opening it end of June, beginning of July this year.
Wow.
So very excited about that. That's the wave of the future for us. Live shows, live immersive experiences. Not touring, although we are doing it with the Whitney Houston Symphony tour, which the first couple of shows were just absolutely fantastic. We'll do more of those, but the content creation, making these, call it Cirque-like shows,
Right.
is now in our wheelhouse with Bob Marley and a few other big ones I can't
Can't
talk
divulge
about.
right now.
Yeah.
But how exciting.
Yeah,
That
what a
seems-
great way to be
yeah.
positioned for all of these projects. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Are there a lot of, I know you can't talk about them, but are there a lot of people you see on the landscape, artists, different kinds of potential partners that you'd like to be involved with that are available?
We are voracious
Okay.
acquirers of music.
All right.
We want to be in business with every important artist we can.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we really believe that all of these artists have been underserved. They've been underfocused. They've been undermarketed. And when I say that, I'm not saying anybody's doing anything wrong. I'm saying that there is so much more opportunity than the normal record company or the normal publisher or any of these banks and private equity people that are looking to buy these things and flip them, right? There's so much more that these artists can be doing, and many of them don't know it because they've been lulled into a sense of, malaise over the last, 30 years or 40 years.
Right.
That's our job, is to reinvigorate an artist's excitement around their own brand and their own music, and that's what we do. I mean, look, unfortunately, I can't tell you some of our recent acquisitions because we haven't announced them yet.
Right.
But there are a lot of artists that are out there that, will at some point want a partnership to kind of reintroduce to a new youth culture.
One thing I do want to talk about, which we haven't discussed yet, that you have announced, is your belief, and it's my belief too, that the world of music rights and publishing and so forth is really expanding on an international basis. You recently did a deal in India, and I'm wondering if you can talk about your views on where music rights or where the growth of international music markets is going based on your own experience. And I don't think you would have made those deals if you didn't see that happening.
Well, look, as an American, we tend to be very myopic.
Right.
We tend to be very myopic and think of the world in terms of America. Well, America is a small part of the world. And the good news for me is I work for a guy named Chris Blackwell at Island Records, and he really opened my eyes that the world is much bigger than
That's
America.
right. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
More than 60% of the music business in terms of sales are outside America.
Right.
Right. So if you look at where we've done deals, I'm not going to tell you countries that we're closing deals right now, but I will tell you we have a joint venture with a company called Times Music in India. We have a company in Brazil called Nas Nuvens, which is, we look at Times and Nas Nuvens in Brazil as mini primary waves in their market. Right?
Okay.
So just take India, for instance. There's 1.5 billion people in India, right? Now, granted, only half really are an emerging middle class who can afford to, pay for a subscription to music or Netflix or, entertainment. But you take 750 million people, that's more people than the entire English-speaking part of the planet, UK, Australia, Canada, America, et cetera, right? That's more people than in the English-speaking world.
Right.
So the opportunity for growth in India is enormous. I think last year the Indian market grew, 35%, the streaming market. The market is going from an advertising-based model to a subscription model. Why wouldn't we be in that market? Because there's hyper growth. And sure, it may level off, but there's going to be growth for a very, very long time. I think the Indian market is similar to where the US market was in streaming 8 years ago. There's a lot of growth in those markets. So we're there, we're in Brazil, and we are going to be in quite a few other emerging markets as well.
Larry, what advice would you give to someone who's interested in pursuing a career in your field?
Well, a career, I think, on the marketing side, on the creative side.
Yeah.
I think that there should be, significant opportunity as the market expands. The market is, without a doubt, getting crowded, right, because of all of the money coming in from private equity. That doesn't mean just because you raise money, you're able to spend the money wisely.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But, there are people that have money and that are looking to make deals. So I think to the extent that they make deals, there'll be more and more opportunity. I don't see a lot of people, though, taking the initiative to create infrastructure creatively. As I said, a lot of these people are buy and hold strategies. But I really do think that there is an opportunity for a young kid that wants to get into the business and wants to learn, marketing, branding, especially digital. If I was, back in college, I would be doing all I could to read up on AI and how does AI affect intellectual property, music, and other forms of creative expression. I would be focusing almost entirely on AI because most people my age don't really understand the impact of AI or what can be done with AI. So I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for somebody who's looking at the technology end of music.
Wonderful.
What are the best ways to get a hold of you, Larry, if somebody wanted to reach out to you or get in touch with you? Is it through the website? Is it through the socials?
I almost never, I can't remember the last time I've responded to somebody on social media. I mean, I'm really on social media mainly to see what my artists are doing and saying.
Right.
And to follow my kids to make sure that, they're on the right path.
Okay.
My email address is on our website.
Okay.
And that's probably the best way to get a hold of me.
Larry, we want to thank you so much.
thank you.
We are so grateful to you that we had the opportunity to do this. I mean, we really, really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure spending time with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Wow. Eric,
Yeah.
all I can say is this did not disappoint
at all.
Absolutely. I am so glad that we had a chance to talk with Larry. I mean, the conversation was as fascinating and insightful as I had hoped beyond.
And I'm glad that we got him actually in person as opposed to
Yes.
a regular phone call or anything, that he was there present with us so you can
Yes.
get the full quality of this, guys, because this was, just nothing but gold.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a real, I think, masterclass
Yep.
in how one must think in full 360 degrees of, three-dimensional thinking
Yep.
of music, culture, brands and songs, like how all of those elements
From a
work today.
50,000 foot view all the way
Yes.
down to the ground level.
That's right.
Yeah.
And all of the elements that are involved with that. One of the things that I thought was most fascinating about this, because it's one that you don't normally think, and it revealed something about his consciousness and the way he looks at business, is how he talked about buying a percentage of something with these deals rather than just buying the whole catalog outright. And, the way he explained it, he says, we're only going to buy the best of the best. And when you buy a portfolio, maybe you get one or two acts that would fit, our criteria for wanting to buy. That's not a way to generate value and generate returns and make artists in general happy. So, he's really seeing it for what it is. And also by doing that, you end up in a partnership with the artist, which makes it much, much more significant. And I think shed something of a light on the way he thinks and the way that you successfully do business in all of these arenas.
Yeah, and one of the other areas, which, my God, we could be here for the next 3 hours talking about all the areas of this conversation, but one of the ones that kind of struck me was on brand building beyond traditional methods. And I think this is where the brilliance of Larry and his team, which he spoke very highly of, which has put together, basically these incredible deals, was he talked about, and I quote, "We created this incredible beer for the band Styx. We'll do a beer, call it Renegade," which is one of their famous songs.
Yeah.
For those of you that don't know, we found out that this microbrewery in Maine had a beer called Renegade. So we said, okay, let's go back to the drawing board. We're going to call it Oh Mama. And the Pittsburgh Steelers theme song is Renegade. So they shipped 26,000 cases of beer, I guess, last year. And we're going to make more money, and the band is going to make more money on the beer than the music. So again, it was coming back from an original idea that didn't end up working out because I guess of the name rights, and they kind of rethunk their whole idea, and they created this beer, and they shipped a bunch of beers to this team, which is already playing their music during their halftimes or during parts of the game. Again, it's just, when you think about it, it would seem like something that would be obvious on the outside looking in, but no. And then when you think about what it takes to come up with those concepts and ideas, and to me, that's the brilliance of what Larry does.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. And, he spoke about so many things, but this is why you have to listen to it. But mostly he spoke about the fact that it's not just one thing. It's not just the artist. It's not just the songs. It's not just marketing the songwriter. It's the whole thing when you put something together. It's the brand meaning everything combined, creating something and finding those right kinds of partnerships to sustain the brand and build upon it. And he wants to do that for underserved catalogs. And so far, he's doing an absolutely magnificent job with all of the examples that he gave us.
Hey, Insiders, thanks so much for tuning into this episode. We really appreciate it. To get show notes, links, and everything that was mentioned during this interview, head on over to our official website at MUBUTV.com/podcast/show notes. If you're enjoying the content and what we're doing here on the show, please subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts from. And don't forget to rate and review our show at iTunes. 5-star reviews are always welcome and help to ensure that our podcast stands out on the top-rated and new and noteworthy charts on iTunes and our space. You can also find us at social media at Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter X, all ending with the handle MUBUTV, which is spelled MUBUTV. Don't forget to catch our flagship show, the MUBUTV Music Business Insider video series, airing every week on YouTube at youtube.com/MUBUTV. This show was produced and created by Rich Ezra and Eric Knight. Theme music by Disciples of Babylon, and be sure to tune in next week for another episode of the MUBUTV Music Business Insider Podcast.